TaxSlayer Simply Free and get your guaranteed maximum refund. Simply Free is available to a limited number of taxpayers. See taxslayer.com for eligibility.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
Well, hey there, everybody. How's the day going? How we doing so far? A little bit of light dust there in the Wichita metro area. If you're headed to work, please be careful. And get ready, because it looks like the bigger round of this snow is coming here while we're on the air over the next few hours on Sports Daily. Glad to be with you. It's Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester. In the cold weather, Max Power made it all the way to the studio in the cold weather. Don't get snowed in there, Max. We're glad to have you with us here. Glad to have everyone with us. Thanks for listening to us on KFH, 1240 AM, 97.5 FM, of course. Thanks for watching us, 12 News Connected, our video streams. Thank you for listening to us on the Odyssey app as well. We'll give some stuff away today, as we have been doing all season long here for the last couple of weeks. We've got a couple of giveaways, the opportunity at a cruise, the opportunity to go to Vegas to watch a little March basketball, a little HTO. That's all available to you here. And lots of good stuff on the show today. KState falls last night, despite a late rally. They were almost there. They almost got it. We'll get into that game and then look ahead to KU tonight, Tommy. KU as an underdog, if you haven't seen. They are not favored in the game against BYU as they stay inside the top 25 for, I believe, the 80th straight week, the 80th straight poll. So we'll get into that a little bit as well. We've got some Royals news that we need to get to, and Felix Johnson joins a little bit in the next hour to talk Chiefs and how do you get started on the off season. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
Well, it's obviously snowy outside for, I feel like, the 80th time. You mentioned KU in the polls for the 80th time. I feel like we're dealing with our 80th winter storm of the season right now, but we'll get through it. We'll deal with it. We'll hunker down. We'll power through and ready to jump in today.
Yeah, we'll be ready for the snow. Snow's fine. The part that's really going to suck is what comes after this snow, and that's sub-zero temperatures basically until about Saturday. I was looking, a colleague at KWCH this morning, Jake Dunn, one of our great meteorologists, put something up. He's like, if you need something to look forward to between Thursday and Tuesday, we will see a 70-degree increase. Like from from whatever it is, 8 below to 61 degrees they have forecasted for Tuesday. So we'll be there. We'll be there. Look, listen.
Just got to be patient. We just gotta hold on, hang on for dear life.
Yeah, it's all right. We all complain about the weather. I feel like we're old enough here. We can have our weather complaints. We can do what we need to do in that regard, and that is not be happy about it because it's not summertime yet, and it's not even springtime. We can't even see spring. Next week will feel good though. Hang in there, everybody. Man, it was great game last night. Not the outcome necessarily, but as far as just another really high-intensity competitive game for K-State, a game that looked like they were going to let it slip away several times. It does ultimately at the very end, and we'll get into the specifics of it. But, one of the big takeaways from it, Tommy, and one of the big immediate questions, and the one that we're asked all the time, at least I am, is K-State still have a chance? I'd say now it's kind of win out or bust. Maybe win out and make it to the Big 12 tournament championship game, and that's enough. Certainly winning the conference tournament would get them in. But it's going to be, brutally tough. It already was going to be. I do think, though, there can still be excitement because they're capable of winning any game that they play. Even in the Big 12 if they play a good game. So, I suppose the hope after a loss, which again, we'll get into the specifics of, is that they just continue to play with the energy and the intensity, even that they played with in a loss last night, because it's been very different, even in the loss. It's a different team to watch now than, mid-January, for instance, a month ago. Totally different team and a totally, enjoyable team now to watch their games, as frustrating as it is to lose.
Well, I do think that the way that they played last night was more reflective of the past of K-State. Like they reverted back, I feel like a little bit to that period of time where they didn't play very good basketball. The effort was there for sure, but there were some execution things that they were struggling with that they haven't struggled with, or at least they didn't during their 6-game winning streak. And so that was a little bit concerning to me as far as an outcome for them, as far as what they need to do. I'm no bracketologist, but I feel like at this point, you got to take the words at and large out of their vocabulary, because I don't think it's going to happen for them. I think that they've got to win the Big 12 tournament at this point. If they, obviously they'll get the auto bid if they do that, but I think that's your path now at this point. I guess it could potentially happen,
Yeah,
but I think it's very unlikely at this point.
you would have to win the last 5 for sure, which would include Iowa State. And then probably win at least a couple, if not, all the way through to a Big 12 championship game. It's going to be really interesting in the Big 12 because you have the teams that will very obviously be in Houston, Arizona, Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Kansas. Baylor, I think, is one of those teams. BYU's getting close to being one of those teams, just based on the net, right? Baylor is the 6th out of those teams I mentioned. They're all the way up at 28. They're probably, unless they just absolutely are a disaster down the stretch. BYU's a little further down, 36. They're kind of in a danger zone, but they only have 8 losses on the year. So they've got a little wiggle room too. The interesting part gets Kansas State is right there now with Utah. Like they essentially have the exact same resume, and so does TCU. So, and then after that, and by the way, so does UCF. You wouldn't believe it because they're only 4-10. They're not going to get in. But you go below that, West Virginia and Cincinnati are still 30 spots higher than Kansas State in the net and have 10 losses. So technically they would be alive too if they can do the same sort of thing. So we'll look at this and have at least 5 teams in the Big 12. Maybe, Arizona State's even higher than them in the net, but they're 3-11 in the Big 12 and have 13 losses. I think we have to stop with the net a little bit in the Big 12, look at total losses, right? Because we're not going to get anybody in with more than, let's call it 14, 15 losses. So now you've got this group of like 5 or 6 teams. And I do think at least one of them will reach the NCAA tournament, right? And they all have really similar resumes. So if 6 are in regardless, then who is that 7th and maybe if the Big 12 is lucky, 8th team? I think you got to look at that, but it doesn't really matter for K-State because the mentality just needs to be, well, just win them all. Like you got to just win them all at this point.
Well, that's what you have to do at this point. And it was, a brutal trip to Utah over the weekend for the Wildcats. And look, like the BYU game, I think we know that BYU is one of those teams that, they're probably a tournament team at this point. Utah is a lot more fringy. And so you had to have that. You couldn't go 0-2 on this road trip. And I think the thing that's the most disappointing to me for the Wildcats is that you started off this road trip in Utah with the BYU loss. Now your backs are up against the wall. You know what you have to do. Like it's as much of a must-win game at Utah to keep your at least at-large hopes alive in the NCAA tournament. And you can't pull it out. You can't get it done. I think that's the most disappointing thing for me against a Utah team that, while your resumes are relatively similar, the way that Kansas State has played recently, notwithstanding the BYU game, I think everybody would say that Kansas State's a better team than Utah is. They just didn't execute the way that they needed to last night.
No doubt about it. And it's disappointing that your season started that way because you have to feel that way in a tough road back-to-back environment because that's always hard in college basketball. We'll get into the specifics of it. A whole lot to come here on Sports Daily. Thanks to Prairie Fire Coffee for keeping us fueled up. We'll be right back.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Is the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message, so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
What is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now. 831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
I haven't got all day.
869-1240.
Time to get busy.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily. You want to win some HTO, you can do that right now in a text contest. Get you free iced tea by texting the keyword T to the short code 20357. That's T to 20357. More than 26 flavors to choose from. While you're in there, you got to try the new Poppy drinks. Poppy partnership with 3 crafted special creations there at HTO. These free teas will be good for Derby or East or West Wichita. You can enter once per day message and data rates apply. Welcome back in, everybody. Max Power producing. I'm Jacob Albrecht alongside Tommy Castor. We're staying warm with you here on Sports Daily. Your comments on our video streams, your calls at 869-1240. Welcome. We'll continue on here with the K-State conversation from last night. We've got Royals talk to get to. JJ Piccolo's extended. Cole Reagans gets a new deal. All kinds of stuff there. And we'll talk a little Chiefs as well with Felix Johnson, our Chiefs offseason insider, as we look for some offseason news and thoughts and things to do. Tommy, K-State last night. If we look at that game, we kind of touched briefly there on, like resume type stuff. Just go win all the rest of your games or win the Big 12 tournament at this point now. I do think this still feels very different than the way it felt about a month ago. I think it's unfortunate because of the way they open the season that we have to be so annoyed that they lost on a trip to Utah. You know what I mean? Like, that's a tough game. Both of these teams are borderline tournament teams, and you went and you had to play them on the road, and you had to stay there for however many days. Like, that's a tough ask for a college basketball team, but that's the position K-State put themselves in. So then they get into the game, and, Utah, if nothing else, has a lot of size, and they utilized it a great deal last night, almost doubling up K-State on the boards. And that, look, if you're going like bird's eye look at this, that's what it is. Like, they just got muscled around down low. They couldn't get any rebounds, and that makes it really hard to win. And they still almost got it done, but they didn't. And at the end of the day, like, you got to be better there. Like, you've only got so much size, and I thought defensively they did a good job, just not on the boards.
I think that's the biggest takeaway from everything. Number one, the rebounding, the fact that they, let Utah get so many second chance opportunities, and that doomed the Wildcats. There's no doubt about that. I think the biggest thing is that you knew going into the game what you needed to do. You knew the way that you needed to execute. Of course, you can't control what Utah does. You can't control their size. You can't control the way that they box out, the way that they got those second chance opportunities. But you can do some things to help try to, silence that home crowd a little bit. I thought shooting the basketball in the first half was a big struggle for Kansas State.
Sure.
Brendan Housen and Doug McDaniel did not shoot the ball particularly well in the first half. I think that Housen shot the ball better in the second half for sure. He was able to finally get going a little bit, and that was important. That helped Kansas State stay in the game. And some of those shots, especially down the stretch, were wild that he was able to make. But they needed that in the first half as well. They weren't able to get it. Coleman Hawkins didn't have himself a great game. And I thought that just overall, there were moments where Kansas State needed to get stops. They had the momentum. They were building, back into the game. They were, whether they tied it or they cut it to a one possession game or whatever the case was in the second half, they needed to get stops. And they weren't able to do that. They were able to, they basically let Utah have multiple chances on their end of the court. And at the end of the day, that's what doomed the Wildcats. And that's why they're going home 0-2 after this Utah road trip.
You mentioned Coleman Hawkins. I think he's hurt. Like, he was really struggling to get up and down the floor last night late. So he's playing through, it looks to me like he's playing through something. And I haven't read Jerome Tang's notes from the game all the way through to see if we got an injury update or anything like that, but he could barely
He was
move.
a little banged up in the first half. I mean, he suffered something where he was laboring through it.
Even at the end of the game, like he was struggling to get up and down the floor. And ultimately, as we really dissect the game, he had a critical error late.
He did.
Performance, good or bad, when he dribbled out instead of putting that ball after Doug McDaniel missed a bunny, which was also a prop. Those two guys with that mistake collectively late was a dagger. I mean,
it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. You need to have that awareness to know where everything is happening, where you're at with the game, how many points you're down. Those are things that in that crucial juncture of a game, you cannot have happen.
No, and I don't want to make excuses for either of them because I agree it's unacceptable. I wondered as Jerome Tang took that last time out with I think like a minute left, and that was it. And I'm like, oh man, like you don't have any more timeouts now. Like that's not even like in the sense of being able to stop the clock, like to not be able to reset your guys with all the different things that can happen within a minute with like situational stuff and scoring, to not have that timeout was tough. Now, I don't know, they wouldn't have used it in that exact moment, so it may not have mattered, but they might have used it before the possession to remind everybody, all right, here's what we have to do. You know, if we miss the shot, we got to get the rebound, we got to do these things. And so it was all just, that was just like a tough ending to a game where they really did, like they worked their tails off to battle back. And I do think, we were texting about this a little bit last night, like that, I can live with that kind of stuff. I can live with that kind of stuff. I couldn't live with the way they played early in the year. Like that was unacceptable. That was to me unacceptable. Like that was the stuff where it's like, what are we doing here? Last night, tough road environment, couple mistakes late. Like I'll live with that because they brought it in the game as much as they could energy wise. And that's all you can ask. It's just, man, it's very likely to me anyway, like at the end of this thing, I'm just going to shake my head at what this team could have been if they wouldn't have taken so long to find whatever it is off the court to translate on the court. This is, I really still like this team. You know, are they ultimately as good as, you know, the most optimistic take? No, but they're for sure like a tournament team or whatever however you want to define it. Like if you pushed reset on this season and played every single game over again, like this is a tournament team. That to me is going to be the really disappointing part.
Sure.
Is they should have been so much better. They shouldn't be in this position right now.
Unfortunately, you are what your record says you are. And that's
exactly
that's the rough thing for this Wildcat team, because I guarantee you the entire fan base, when things are all said and done, they're going to look back on it and think what could have been, you know, what could have been had things gelled even a week earlier. Like if you just get a couple of those games back, like, of course, like things were pretty bad, that bad stretch of basketball for a while. But even if you can get like one or two of them, like I'm not even talking about like a total turnaround during that stretch of bad basketball, just get a couple of those and it would be a different situation entirely that we'd be talking about right now for the Wildcats. They might have still been on the bubble. They might have still needed, you know, to do some work to be able to get in, but we wouldn't be talking about the fact that, man, their at-large hopes are pretty much extinguished on January, 21st or whatever it is. Like that's unfortunate that, we're in this position right now at this point, like not being able to talk about what they need to do to get into the tournament. They're good. I mean, like, and you and I may be differing a little bit on what we think has to happen. I think they have to win the Big 12 tournament. I don't think that there's an at-large position for them at this point, but regardless of how you slice it, yeah, it's absolutely disappointing.
Yeah, I don't know that I think there is, but what I think is there isn't one unless you win every single one of them. And a couple of tournament games. Like I think if you win out in the regular season, then we'd have to kind of reset and say, okay, what do they need to do in the Big 12 tournament? And a lot of that has to do with what happens around them that's totally out of their control. But either way, the mindset from right now, February 18th on, is KState just can't lose another game, right? They just got to win them all. Just go win them all, or your season will be done. Now, however you want to slice it, I think that's the mentality you have to have. And I think that's an okay mentality. Because they seem now like they're at least wired into it. We'll check on, and I'll go back and check the notes from the K-State people after the game, because they put out the quotes from Jerome Tang and
the wild thing is I sent you this last night that with Utah, both of these games that they played over the weekend, on Saturday against Kansas and then last night against K-State, Utah won both of those games. They shot under 40% from the field in both of those games, and they won both of those games. Like, that's a wild stat. Like, Utah didn't shoot the ball particularly well in either game, but they did other things that helped get them to victory. I mean, namely the rebounding, namely the opportunity to get second chance points. Like, those things all mattered, and it added up for Utah to where, because of their size and what they were able to do, like, that's a strength of theirs.
I mean, yeah, that's all the credit to them on that. Like, that is their thing, right? That's their thing. So credit. Utah deserves some credit here for these two
Sure,
wins too.
100%.
Quite a bit, honestly. Like that's a tough. They put themselves back into like a bubble situation for sure. I mean, we acted like, and it's probably a little bit shame on us. We acted like Utah was terrible. Utah's not terrible. They're 15-11 this year now. They were 13-11 going into that stretch. They just won a couple of home games, and they're going to be right back. And I haven't looked, but they'll be right there in the mix. Their resumes.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it was like
Kansas State.
I'm not sure that we thought that they were terrible. I just think that both Kansas and Kansas State, they were playing both Utah and BYU, and BYU gets the attention between the two just because of the way that BYU can. I mean, they're a very dangerous team. So I just think that Utah got a little overlooked in these two matchups. Like they were the team that you weren't paying as much attention to. You were worried about BYU.
100%. And Utah, I totally agree. I'll speak for me. I overlooked Utah for sure. All right, let's go to Kansas now. So Kansas gets their chance against BYU. They are underdogs in this game. Thought that was interesting this morning. They are still in the polls, which is interesting, but not as egregious as some of the haters out there would have you believe. Kansas is still 15 in the net. Okay, like they're like them being a top 25 team is not egregious with a 17-8 overall record. They have a ton of great wins this year. It's fine. Nobody honestly cares about that, and I understand that. But it's 80 straight weeks. It's the longest in college basketball. It's therefore like that. It's there in a season where Bill Self's already achieved all the bad things, right? Most losses, most Big 12 losses, and there's a lot of basketball to be played. So it was a news item. But now they're in such a weird place too to me, Tommy, because I don't know. They're sort of in this mode for very different reasons than Kansas State, right? Like KU's in a situation where it could be very helpful for them, not to get on a run just to reprove to themselves, like, God, when we play right, like we're good enough to beat anybody. Like they got to snap out of this thing lately. Like this struggle and some of the struggles we saw earlier this year feel a little different to me. Like just remind themselves of what they're capable of, let alone that they can't do it consistently. Just like a memory tonight that you beat Iowa State by 19 would be real handy just to sort of cleanse the palate a little bit.
Yeah, to share the couple of stats I shared yesterday in case, folks didn't hear it. They are in the last two seasons 6-13 in road games. They have lost more than double the games that they have won on the road in the last two seasons. To me, that shows that this particular squad lacks toughness. If you can't go into a hostile environment and get wins. So that's obviously concerning for tonight's game. And then the other one that since Thanksgiving, the Jayhawks are 1-6 against teams that are projected to be in the NCAA tournament. They've only won one game against tournament teams since Thanksgiving. Again, shows that they lack toughness and shows that when they're taking on opponents that are able to challenge them in certain ways, that they're not able to rise to the occasion. So between both of those statistics, that's obviously very concerning going into this game tonight against a BYU team that is probably a tournament team. They're not a lock in the tournament at this point, but BYU has a lot to play for because this would be another really quality win for them to bolster their tournament chances. And so knowing all of that and putting all that together, I'm not shocked at all that the Jayhawks are underdogs going into this game tonight.
Oh, no, I'm not shocked either. It's just interesting to see it. Like, there's so much interesting about this season because we never do see it going back to the 80 weeks in a row. Like, we don't see stretches of 7 games, Tommy, where Kansas hasn't won 2 in a row, which is what we're currently existing in. It's a credit to the success of the program that these things are so jarring to us. Like, it's like, wait, what? Like that's it's spoiled behavior, quite frankly, but it's reality, and you are what you are, and it is wild to see some of this stuff. I mean, we've got 6 to go, and Bill Self's already at his highest loss total in both Big 12 and overall. That's pretty wild. It's wild that it's his highest, but it's wild that we're in the moment of his highest with a team that was a preseason number 1.
Yeah. And we're pretty much at the point now too, where barring something miraculous, they'll have double-digit losses for the second year in a row. And again, like that doesn't happen usually for
They
Bill
They already
self-coached
have
team.
double-digit losses. I mean, they're
They have-
there. You know, like
No, they have 8. They have 8
well,
losses
yeah, I
right
guess
now.
that's true. I guess that's true. I mean, we're
But they're pacing for a double-digit loss
they're
total
pacing.
again.
Yeah,
You lose in the Big 12 tournament, you lose in the NCAA tournament. Boom, boom, right there, you're at 10. And that doesn't even talk about any other regular season game down the stretch.
right. You're pacing to be the worst seasons, I should say, for Bill Self, right? You're pacing to have them sort of.
And they had double-digit
back to
losses
back,
a season ago.
right?
Like those things don't
So-
happen for Bill Self.
Yeah, the point is last season, Bill Self set the records with this team, right? 11 and 8. And now you're pacing to break the records of 11 and 8. You have 6 games to go. So unless they go, what do they have to go here? They've got to go.
Well, they either
can only you got to go
4-2.
4-2 over this stretch. And I misspoke a little bit there. You got to go 4-2 on this stretch to not reset the worst that you set a year ago. Basically, is what you have to have. And it's a team that hasn't won 2 games in a row in 7.
Yeah. And doesn't that, holistically, I mean, there probably are some major like red flags, like alarm bells going off right now, just holistically 30,000 foot view with this program and the way, like, I don't know if it's just like centered solely on the context of what they're doing right now, but knowing what they did a season ago and then also combining it with what's happening right now, like I think there should be some major alarm bells going off around the program.
Well, okay, I'm glad you said that because this is where I sort of struggle with it. Or is it just because it's the same group of players for 2 years in a row? You know what I mean? Like, is it just that this group isn't a good fit? Because the core is essentially the same in both. And so that I think for me has been a really interesting thing to think about. Is this this modern era of college basketball and Bill Self conversation, or is it more of this group just isn't as good as we think they can or should be? Because it's been this group that's tied to both of these things. It's the same team, or at least the same core as it was a year ago. And I do struggle with that because I hear people talking about it like, is Bill Self going to be all right in the transfer portal era? And I'm like, well, I mean, they won a national title in the transfer portal era with Remy Martin on the team. So I think so. But yeah, your 2 worst seasons come in the 2 most recent. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It's kind of a chicken or the egg. I guess we'll find out next year, right? And that's not to close the book on this year's team because I don't want to do that either. That would be silly to do.
I mean, at this point, like I don't even know what the ceiling is for this year's team, the team that we're watching right now. Like,
I mean,
because I think the ceiling at this point is a lot lower than obviously what the initial thoughts were before the season started.
I would say the floor is lower probably than the ceiling. I mean, I don't want to say that nothing, like I don't want to take anything off the table for a team that has beaten some really good teams this year and beaten some really good teams badly. We can talk about that. We can talk about that as we make our way through. We got some Royals news. We got some Chiefs news to get to as well. We'll continue a KU conversation. It's Sports Daily. Stick around.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, Tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Is the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
what is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
83101 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
and inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily. Talking a little college basketball here. You can listen to KFH Radio for your chance at the ultimate trip to Vegas in March. Winning's easy. Just download the free Odyssey app, log in, listen to KFH Radio. Listen each day for a minimum of 1 hour for your daily entry. Includes travel and accommodations for 4 to Las Vegas plus $20,000 spending cash. Get all the info with this national contest right there at kfhradio.com. Stay at the Circuit Resort and Casino, Las Vegas's premium sports viewing destination. Visit the biggest March Hoops party at Stadium Swim. Welcome back in. We brought something up, and Royals fans will get to the Royals news here in our next hour. We'll get to some Chiefs news in our next hour with Felix Johnson as well. So stay tuned for that. But let's just stick with college basketball since we're on it right now. And KU plays tonight. They'll play BYU. They've got to have a win. Tommy brought up an interesting idea with KState of KU. Sorry, what is their ceiling? in a year where we're concerned that they will surpass some loss totals that they set in record form last year with 6 games still here to play. What is the ceiling? I haven't really thought about that yet. I'm not sure yet what I think that is. I think it's I said I think the floor is lower than I certainly thought it would be at the beginning of the year. The floor is right down there where it was last year. Now, I think that part we can say pretty easily, right? The ceiling though is interesting because the ceiling to me does feel higher still than it was a year ago because we've seen them perform at that level. I mean, is the ceiling the way they played on 2 weeks ago on February 13th? Is that a ceiling? I go back to this and they didn't get it done because of a couple of silly mistakes late, but a team that should have beat Houston, probably a team that's going to be a 1 seed, a team that has beat Duke, a team that'll be a 1 seed most likely. So I'm not ready to
should have beat Baylor, but they had one of the biggest collapses ever.
60 points in the second half. Yeah. So I don't know that I'm ready to close the book on their ceiling yet because I still do think in an individual game they can absolutely beat anybody. The problem with the ceiling for me is, can they do it 2 times in a row? Can they do it 3 times in a row? So I don't know. Like, that's a good question because I'm not real sure where to put it. I think the floor becomes very obvious. This could absolutely be a team ripe to get a first round upset, like as a 4-13 or whatever it is, 12-5. Like, that's the floor. I think that part's pretty obvious. The ceiling is interesting. I don't know what I think the ceiling is.
Yeah, I think that because of how the way that they've played recently, being able to put together multiple wins in a tournament setting, like the NCAA tournament, I think that their ceiling is very limited at this point. Like, yeah, they're ripe for a first round upset, but in my opinion, I don't think the ceiling is that far away from the floor. Like, I don't think that there's this like wide gap between the two. I think it's fairly narrow. Like, I think the floor is they get bounced in the first round against an upstart team that shoots the lights out and they can run them up and down and exhaust them and wear them out. And they get beat in the first round. I think the ceiling is they maybe win a second game and they get out of the first weekend and they make it to the Sweet 16 and then they go home after that. Like, I just don't really feel like there's a big enough, that there are enough indications showing me right now that they can string together multiple wins to be able to advance and get deep in to the NCAA tournament. And here's a really good example. I don't know if you watched, and I know we're talking about the cream of the crop, the top tier in the country this season, but I don't know if you watched Alabama Auburn on Saturday, number 1 versus number 2.
They'd be toast in a game like that.
They would get absolutely murdered by either one of those teams. Like, either one of them, they would get absolutely murdered. And this is a team that was a preseason number 1. And there are a handful of teams that are like Auburn and Alabama in the country this season. And I have a hard time thinking that when you actually when push comes to shove and you're in the Sweet 16 or maybe even, fingers crossed, the Elite 8, they come up against a team like that. I think they get run out of the gym.
So I don't disagree with that, but the reason I'm not ready to close the book on their outcome is because what if it's not Auburn or Alabama, right? What if it's Florida, who right now is the 4th ranked team in the net, or Duke, a team they've already beaten this year, or a team that plays a little different style? That's where, like, KU is very much like they could get lucky on a path, right, to get there. So until we see what that path potentially looks like, it's hard for me to say they will or they won't do some particular thing, because we've seen within this season, and even like I said 2 weeks ago, Iowa State's probably going to be a 2 seed, maybe a 3 at worst, and they beat them by 19 points. I think and if they play Houston, they'll get a chance against Houston again. That's not the worst matchup for them, right? Because of what strength versus strength, or whatever you want to call it. So I think that's what makes it hard for me to definitively say this team will or won't do something. I think it's hard. I think it's harder than ever to say that, because I think they're capable of surprising us in either direction. They're capable of surprising us, like, how could they lose that game? And they're capable of surprising us and being like, oh yeah, that's why they were preseason number 1. Because
you remember, remember a season ago, the conversation that we always had was that they were so matchup dependent, that it depended upon who they played, who their opponent was, and the style in which that opponent played on whether or not that would end up working for KU or not. And I think, I mean, obviously a lot of the pieces remain this season, as compared to last season. I think it's a kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same conversation, like that they're going to end up being matchup dependent, where, there are other teams out there. And I mentioned two of them off the top in Alabama and Auburn that they can just beat you. They play their game. They'll just beat you. Like it's not matchup dependent. They'll make it work. That's not KU. Like it's a pretty specific path as to what they have to do and who they have to be facing to be able to get wins.
But I don't think it's as bad as it was last year as far as matchup dependency. I do think this team is quite a bit more talented than last year's team. So I'm not quite to that. I think this is a better team. Now, there's still 6 games to go, and this could spiral to a point where that doesn't matter, right? Again, like if they don't kind of string it together here, like we could get back to that point for different reasons, but they got, their next 2 of their next 3, Oklahoma State and Colorado, and then Tech, Houston, Arizona. I'll bet you they win at least one of those, if not 2. And then we'll see what happens. It's to me, they're as unpredictable as they ever have been. And it's not because I think their ceiling's so high. It's because it's just impossible lately for them to guess at what you're going to get on a night in, night out basis. We knew their flaws last year. Their flaws could not have been more obvious last year. This year, there's nothing obvious about it. People will say, well, it's when the big 3 are on the floor together for extended minutes. And then those 3 are on the floor together extended minutes and they beat Iowa State by 20 points. And it's like, okay, well, maybe it's not that. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it. That's what's so maddening. Like when are they going to when are they going to play really well and when are they going to not show up? It's the most unpredictable it's ever been for them. That's why I have a hard time making any proclamations for them, because it's so wildly all over the place night in, night out. I don't know. I have no idea what to expect with them ever this season.
Well, I think that, we've seen trends. We've seen trends that have told us different things about this team. We've seen the trends that their newcomers are not getting the job done in conference play, that they're not consistent.
Other than Zeke Mayo.
But Griffin and Storr are not getting the job done. And from there, so much of the burden is placed on the shoulders of the big 3. Right. And yeah, Dickinson has been an All-American type guy over the course of his career. But I think, and I've said this for weeks and I'll continue to say it, I think there is, out of necessity, too much put on the shoulders of DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams. Like they're being asked to play at a level where you want to talk about a ceiling. I think both of them are already at their ceiling and they're not doing anything more. Like DeJuan Harris is not going to be this absolutely explosive playmaker where he's going to give you 20 plus points a game and be able to create on offense. That's not DeJuan Harris's game. It never has been and it never will be. KJ Adams can provide you good minutes at times and he can be an energy giver and like all of that. And that's great, but he's not going to be a consistent 25, 30 minute plus productive when he's on the court every single minute of the time that he's there. That's just not his game either. And it never will be. So I think there's too much being asked of those guys, but again, there's really no other alternative. Like it just is what it is with those guys right now. And so the burden is being put on the 3 of them and they're not able to deliver.
So I don't think what I've thought all year has changed much, because I think I think I agree with what you're saying, maybe in a little different path to get to the end of the the point here. I don't think DeJuan Harris is doing any more or less than what he's always done.
No, I don't think he is at all.
He's been pretty consistent this year. So when I look at it, I'm like, well, it's not going to be like DeJuan Harris has to be better. DeJuan Harris is DeJuan Harris. He's steady Eddie. He's going to play good defense.
I think that there's a thought though that people want him to be somebody he's not.
Yeah, he's not. We've seen it for 4 years now. Like it's not going to happen. KJ Adams is the same way.
I think that part of it is that DeJuan Harris is a victim of who has come before him in that role that has worn a KU jersey. Like I've talked to so many people who say, man, I miss Devontae Graham. I miss Devon Dotson. I miss Frank Mason. I miss those guys who are dynamic playmakers and they can get downhill. They can get to the rim. When the Jayhawks needed a bucket, put the ball in their hands and they will make it happen. Even Remy Martin was like that to an extent. That's not DeJuan Harris's game. He is a pass first distributor. Like, that's just what he does. That's who he is. It's who he always has been. But I think when this team is searching for a bucket, they're searching for an offensive identity, people are like desperately grasping at straws, hoping that DeJuan Harris magically turns into somebody that he never has been and he never will be.
DeJuan Harris played almost 30 minutes in their last national championship game. And he does and did a lot of the things that season, but they had Jalen Wilson and they had Ochai Agbaji and they had Christian Brown,
and
right?
Remy Martin.
But so that's the point. Like we should never say DeJuan Harris needs to be more of a scorer, because in their national championship season, that's not.
You're right, but again, it's the pieces outside of DeJuan Harris that make people want him to be somebody he's not.
That's right. So I don't think and that's where this has been a strange thing. So it's not like DeJuan Harris is going to do what he does. KJ Adams is the same way. To me, it's been, and it always has been, Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson is the guy where that's the guy that's capable of so much more than you get sometimes. And he just hasn't, I don't know that I want to call him a defensive liability, but because he's a good rebounder, but man, like they just can't.
Is he a good rebounder though? Like, I'm not sure.
Well, he's 7 feet tall.
He's big. Yeah. Like by default, he should be a decent or okay rebounder.
No, he's not a good rebounder, but he's going to get rebounds. Let's put it that way. I think I think there's your disconnect.
I've said it before. I think your vertical is probably better than Hunter Dickinson's.
I got a good vertical, or I did. I don't anymore. So that's what I look at, and that's why I've always said if Flory Badunga could come into his own, and it's hard to say that because Hunter Dickinson's the best player, right? But I also think it's a big part of the reason they feel so limited is because they're so reliant on him. And so if they could get Badunga better quickly, they could get Dickinson out more frequently to keep him fresh. That's always been what I've thought with this team. And it could be wrong. I could be off on that. It may be as simple as the other guys just have to score more. The other two transfers that haven't been. They'll play tonight. We'll find out. We'll come back. More Sports Daily Hour number 2 coming up.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of. It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
83101 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospitalized from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
Oh boy, welcome in everybody. It is another hour of Sports Daily. We went all college basketball there in the first hour. If you missed any of it, you can go back and listen. Talked a lot of KState, a lot of KU there. It's all on the Odyssey app for you. We appreciate you hanging with us. We're going to talk some Royals. We're going to talk some Chiefs in this hour. Boy, Tommy, this weather sucks. Sure, you know what sounds good right now? Some wings, maybe a little soup if it tickles your fancy, and some simulator golf to try and transform and transport to a warmer place. And Crestview would be a great place to do that. I wish we could both just like play hooky today. I don't know if you get the day off. I don't get the day off. TV people,
No, I'll be
news people. We don't ever get the day off.
No, I'll be working from home today. That's I wish that I could just play hooky. It'd be nice.
Yeah, me too. And it'd be great to go up to Crestview and hit the 2 massive TrackMan simulators that they have, which are state of the art and so cool. We appreciate Crestview's support of this program. Tommy and I are up there frequently.
Yep.
That is one of the things that we enjoy a great deal. Is to get up there and
got a wine tasting there next week. We'll be doing a wine tasting.
I gotta go to a thing.
I'll be doing a wine tasting.
Are you a wine guy?
No, I'm not. But I'm hoping that I'll become one. That's part of the reason why I'm doing this. Is I'd like to be able to learn. I've never had anybody show me anything regarding wine. Like usually it's just like drink it out of a box and, call it good.
My problem with wine is I only like it in the ways that embarrass my wife. Um, yes, boxed wine is delicious. I grew up on Franzia. My
Sure.
parents had Franzia in the fridge all the time. And so like that to me is good. Like we'll go to a nice thing and everyone's ordering wine and I'll like, oh, where's Michelle? Like which one's like, can I get one of these cold? Like, can I get a cold blush? And she's like, you better not order that. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll have a whiskey. Like, okay. I can't do it. The red wine. Now, she's given me a couple that I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. But man, I can't drink very much of it. Like, so I'll be sad not to be at the wine tasting with you and our lovely wives. I'll be driving back into town, but that's not my forte anyway. But hey, but I remember took a trip to San Francisco with my dad and one of my brothers, and we went to some vineyards and it's like the stereotype, and I get it, but they gave us the whatever it was to like spit the wine out, and we just looked at them like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, I ain't spitting anything out. And it was a fun afternoon, to say the least. But yeah, thanks to Crestview for all the support. They got events like that all the time. Wine tastings. They got stuff for the guys. They got stuff for the gals. It's a great place. Give them a call. Did you watch SNL? Before we get into Royals and Chiefs this hour, we'll have Felix Johnson in next segment. Did you watch SNL 50? Have you been keeping up with the SNL 50?
Yes.
So I did not watch the concert portion, and I think I need to, but I did watch the actual thing. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was good. I'm glad that comedy has found its edge again. Like, comedy should be the safe space to me. Like, it should always be the safe place. And if a bad joke is a bad joke and it's in bad taste, then it's going to be a bad joke. And that's punishment enough, because nobody likes to tell a bad joke, right? So I'm glad to see they're getting a little bit of that back. It feels that way to me anyway. I just feel like if comedy's going to offend you, you probably shouldn't watch comedy, because that's kind of all bets should kind of be off there. And then you can choose at what level you're comfortable with it and not watch it if you're not. And if you are, laugh at the things that are sometimes suck in life. But I thought they did a pretty good job. There were some skits that fell flat for me, but they always will on a show like SNL, but they did a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought that from start to finish, I was a fan of it. I was way into the SNL 40 10 years ago. I was way into SNL 50 this year. I watched the 4-part documentary series on Peacock about SNL that I thought was pretty good. One episode was all about the making of the More Cowbell sketch, which obviously is iconic. So it was fun. It was a really good. I thought it was a really good weekend to celebrate SNL. Little known fact about me. I originally wanted to be on Saturday Night Live. That's what I wanted to do when I was a teenager. I went to college. Again, little known fact about me. I originally went to college to study acting, and I did it for like a semester, realized that I wasn't good enough or talented enough. And so I switched to radio and broadcasting and all of that. But I did improv comedy for a long time. I was in a sketch comedy group for a number of years in college in my 20s. I have a deep appreciation for Saturday Night Live, for comedy, for things like that, because that's what I wanted to do when I was younger.
Yeah, that's interesting. I knew you dabbled in some live theater stuff, but I didn't, I that's not my thing. I love it, but not something I've ever really explored doing. So let's power rank then real quick our SNL favorites. I think both of our generations of it are probably match up, like the Sandler, Farley, Spade years. Like, those to me were the golden years. I think the originals were as funny as everybody else does. It's just not, that wasn't my sweet spot. Mm-hmm. And honestly, like the Farrell, Jimmy Fallon years, although like Cowbell is one of the all-time greats and some of the all-time great skits for me came out of there, I was not as locked into that generation of it as I was the one right before it. So to me, like, that was the sweet spot, right? That group right before that, the basically like the Sandler, Farley years. And to me, Farley is the king of Saturday Night Live. But that was it for me.
So I actually didn't discover the show until high school. And so by that point, the Farley, Sandler, Spade years were already done. So for me, it was Farrell, it was Fallon. I love Chris Parnell. Like that group, was great. But then even for me, like getting a little bit older in college, when I was in the middle of learning how to do all of that, and I was doing improv comedy and sketch comedy, like I have a deep appreciation. I love Jason Sudeikis and Bill Hader and Will Forte and Andy Samberg. Like that, Fred Armisen is brilliant. Like that group, I was all about it.
Yeah, so that group, I was done watching the show, but I'd see the skits, and they're good.
Like that was mine. I loved that for sure.
There's so and all of that being said, I thought of the SNL 50 that Eddie Murphy totally stole the show.
Eddie Murphy was phenomenal. He was so good.
His Tracy Morgan next to Tracy Morgan was brilliant. Really, really smart. And then even the prison scene. As much as like Will Ferrell comes in and steals it like Will Ferrell does, because he's really funny. Eddie Murphy, where did he go?
Well,
like,
and that's the thing. I think what makes
stuff
a little bit, but what makes that payoff so great for Eddie Murphy doing those sketches in SNL 50 is that if you remember 10 years ago, he returned to SNL 40. It was the first time he had been back since he left the show. Wasn't on good terms with a lot of the people, had a lot of drama there, like whatever. He comes back for SNL 40. And if you remember, he didn't do any comedy at SNL 40. He was on stage and he spoke for a minute or two about his appreciation of the show, but he didn't do anything. And I know he came back and hosted. He hosted like between the 40 and the 50th. But him being able to come in and actually be in sketches during the 50th, he didn't do that 10 years prior. And I think that was a nice payoff for him.
It is. And I thought that the staples were all good. Weekend Update, I think, honestly, like from what I've seen now, is better than it ever has been. Like those two that do it now are the best. Yeah, and that says a lot because I am a huge Norm Macdonald fan. Like big Norm Macdonald fan. I think these two dudes that do it now are the best that have ever done it. I think they're incredible.
They're great.
And so like all of it, it was really well done. They did a good job. They offended different people for different reasons. And that probably means they did an even better job. Like if you got your feelings hurt, then they probably did their job a little bit. And then they're not afraid to do that anymore, which for me is the most important thing about comedy. Like, don't be afraid to hurt people's feelings. Like no matter what.
I thought there were good cameos, from celebrities. Yes. You had De Niro in there and Woody Harrelson and John Hamm. And I thought it was good.
Meryl Streep being the abducted lady, which is one of the all-time great skits. Mom was like, those are the things where it's like, that's where you get like totally out of your comfort zone of like, there's no way she's playing this character. And then you see it and you're like, hell yeah, that's awesome. That's fantastic. So it was good. I was glad to see it. And I hope they have a triumphant return and we get great young comedians continuing to, because like it's a different path now, right? Like it's not the same path it used to be. Everybody gets famous on social media. Some of the great comedians now, like they wouldn't go on Saturday Night Live. Like they're funny from other stuff, which is interesting too. And I'll take it any way I can get it. Like my algorithm on social media right now is basically just feeding me stand-up comedians. That's pretty much the only thing that my phone shows me when I'm turning into a zombie, just kind of scrolling through his stand-up comedians. So I'm glad anytime it's in the news.
People consume it differently now than they did 50 years ago. Like I don't know the last time I sat down and watched SNL live, just because I usually go to bed, right? Like Chappelle. I'm not saying
I caught a little of Chappelle's live. That was the last time.
But it's not uncommon for Sunday mornings, as I'm scrolling and catching up on what happened. Like I'm watching the sketches from the night before on YouTube. Like that's just kind of the way that people consume things now.
It is. Anywho, I knew we needed to get that out there because it's the pop culture thing of the last few days. So that's out there. We're gonna have Felix Johnson in when we return, so make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll get caught up on the Chiefs offseason and a Royals offseason that's been interesting, following an interesting one last year. Chiefs talk next on Sports Daily.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
What is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
310-01 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospitalized from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Sports Daily is on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily. Thanks for watching us on YouTube and X this morning. We'll get that Facebook connection set back up here as quick as we can. You can leave us your comments there. We have comments on discussion happening about KU basketball there. You can also watch us on 12 News Connected. Of course, you can listen to us on the Odyssey app and live over the air on KFH. Glad to have you with us. Glad to have Felix Johnson in, stepping into a Chiefs insider role for us as we navigate an offseason that will be interesting, to say the least. Travis Kelce's news, Felix, is still sort of the elephant in the room. We're going to have that sometime in the next handful of weeks. I'm curious as your take, though, as we look at a pretty critical list of free agents here. What are the plans, do you think, with Kelce contractually, and how does that impact everything else that they have to do?
I've said this a few times to a handful of friends, Chiefs fans and otherwise, but I think Travis Kelce is probably earned the right to die on his shield, to kind of go out and have probably a bad last season. He has 300 yards, misses 10 games for whatever reason. He probably has earned that. And so, I mean, I think the Chiefs are in that situation too. Obviously, they're in a spot now where only January matters forever, even after the Super Bowl loss, where they're going to be in a spot where Travis Kelce still matters in January, probably until he's 58 years old, just because you have that mentality as a football player. And so I just think that his presence will be welcome no matter in what capacity. And then it's just up to him whether or not he wants to run it back one more time.
We talked about it quite a bit, Felix, over the last week or so. As soon as basically Kelce was on his podcast talking about how he needed to take some time away to think about it and, decide if he wanted to come back, the conversation between Jacob and I has been, how much of a major impact is this to the Chiefs, assuming that Kelce doesn't come back? And we got kind of heated, Jacob and I did, last week debating this, because while it's impactful, I'm not denying that it's impactful. I actually think it's less impactful than, being just this major thing, because it feels like to me, the Chiefs have already been wanting to try to find ways to take the focus off of Travis Kelce being the main offensive weapon for the Chiefs offense. Whether or not they were able to do it out of necessity because Rashee Rice got injured last year, they had to lean on him. But I certainly feel like the Chiefs have at least been putting the pieces in place for a little while now to try to figure out a way to de-emphasize him.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. At some point in the near future, everybody knows Travis Kelce's not going to be playing football anymore, whether that's next year or the year after, however long he decides to keep playing. And so the Chiefs have to have a plan after that. That's why we've seen Noah Gray come on in the last year and some change, because he's another guy that's really talented behind Travis Kelce. And Jacob and I talked about it last week, where over the course of the 3 years, going to 3 straight Super Bowls, the Chiefs' best players have only gotten older, and Travis Kelce being the oldest among them, it's going to be a problem that the Chiefs have to address at some point. And so I think going into next year, the conversation about Rashee Rice, whether or not they bring back Hollywood Brown or DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, the Chiefs are going to retool because they're a football team, and so they're going to have to figure out somehow, some way. But obviously, Travis Kelce is not going to be as big of a part of it. But being that he's not going to be as big of a part of it, him retiring, it probably isn't that big of a deal. I think Noah Gray stepping into a role, maybe not as prominent as Travis Kelce over the last 10 years or whatever, but it is, if he's not going to be that big of a part of it, him retiring probably isn't that big of a deal. And I'm just kind of coming to it now, but we'd all hate to see it, but that's the truth.
I think you're right with Tommy on that. Here's why I disagree. I think for 2 years now, they would have liked to de-emphasize Travis Kelce. The problem is they can't, right? They've tried hard to, and they can't do it. I don't quote me on this number because I don't have it pulled up anymore. But basically for his entire career, no matter who the quarterback is, no matter what the offense is, he's been either their leading receiver or their second leading receiver his entire career, including last year and 2 years ago when he supposedly has slowed down so much. So sure, they would like to do that. The question for me becomes, and the problem, the reason I do think is important is because they have to do it. Mm-hmm. They've never been able to not have Travis Kelce be the focal point. So we can all say they'd like to do that. sure they would. But can they do it now has to enter the equation of an offseason. And okay, if you want to do it, how do you do it? And it has to become a priority because they've never been able to be successful without him.
Well, and I think that Travis Kelce is one of the most unique players in NFL history where he
Totally agree.
has so much leverage in that a couple years ago, the Chiefs basically chose Travis Kelce over Tyreek Hill. And like, I mean, if you pay Tyreek Hill at that moment, you can't pay Travis Kelce however many years later. So they've decided that he is the choice. I mean, where I'm looking at the Field Vision app right now, he was the top 4 tight end this year. And this was his worst year of his career. Like he was one of the 4 best tight ends in football. And he still didn't feel that same way. And so that's how good Travis Kelce has been. But the Chiefs, and we can get into it here, and we kind of talked about it a little bit last week, but offensively, they need some diversity, and moving away from Travis Kelce will force that.
But they won't have, real quick, though, we got to remember, like, in whatever decision they have to make to help that, they're not going to have Rice for some time next year.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping that he's ready week 1, week 2.
Well, he's going to get suspended. He's going to get suspended for at least 6. If not 8,
maybe. I mean, don't remind me of all the. And that's the weird part about this situation. I wish it would have came down when he got hurt this year. Like that would have been perfect timing, or whatever the situation may have. Like maybe if he got suspended early on, he misses the game that he got hurt in. But it's just the NFL bureaucracy, red tape, bullcrap. Honestly.
Going back to the Super Bowl, Felix, it was interesting following what you guys over at Field Vision were putting out in regards to the result and the way that the Eagles were absolutely historic in the way that they shut down Kansas City's offense with, the way that they were able to get after Patrick Mahomes. They never blitzed, they that wasn't anything that was in their game plan, but it worked super effectively for the Eagles to get after it. Now, as we're looking ahead for Kansas City, I mean, there are some clear holes that they need to get fixed. They need to figure out, some offensive line issues, and especially if Trey Smith doesn't come back, and that looks fairly likely that he won't come back. How do you rank the top priorities for this offseason and what you think Kansas City should do?
Well, I think, honestly, I'm still a believer in Kingsley Suamataia. I know that he's still very young. Like, he was 21 years old when they drafted. The Chiefs drafted 2 of the youngest players in the entirety of last year's draft. Xavier Worthy turned 21 on draft day, and Kingsley Suamataia was a 5-star like 2 years ago. Like these are legitimate blue chip guys and young guys, and so I still think that they've drafted for the future, along with trying to get players for now with the Xavier Worthy for that instance. So I think offensive line will, for lack of a better term, take care of itself because we've seen it before. Like after they lost their first Super Bowl against Tampa, Brett Veach went out, got Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith in the 6th round. But I think they kind of got lucky in that situation where you can get a Trey Smith in the 6th round, and they've got the best center in football now, Creed Humphrey, so they're going to lock him down. Obviously, it's not easy to find tackles in free agency or the draft, and they're drafting at 31. If they're drafting at 10, I'd be like, awesome, let's draft a left tackle, let's keep it moving. I just don't see the Chiefs finding that tackle that they need to solve all of their problems. It would have been awesome if they would have signed Trent Williams 2 years ago, but I don't know if there's a guy out there on the market that they're going to find to solve that issue. I think other than that, they're just going to be filling holes via the draft and probably not drafting in the 1st round, trying to trade down and gather some picks to rebuild some of the players that they're going to miss, like Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, that are probably going to have to walk.
Well, and Amenahu's going to be a free agent. You mentioned the receivers. They're going to be missing depth on the line. It's a bigger and more daunting free agent list than I think it's getting credit for because everyone's so focused on how bad tackle's been. Even if you love Kingsley, and I don't know that you love him, but you just said you like him. I don't know that you can count on anything, though, other than him maybe helping at guard next year because you can't run him back at tackle the way he played. I mean, he was as bad as there is at left tackle. So maybe he gets better, maybe he doesn't. You can't bet on that, though. So maybe he helps you on the interior. You still got to find a tackle. And they have tried now, to your point, since that first Super Bowl loss. They tried with Orlando Brown. They tried with Jawan Taylor. They've tried about a billion different things, and none of it has worked, or at least long term.
The tough part is the Orlando Brown Jr. thing did work basically.
Well, right, but they don't have him now.
Exactly, and you're right about that. The only reason why I believe in Kingsley is because he's so young. Like, well, he's still 22 years old. Like, we'll see. He's so raw, and like they drafted him as a raw prospect. I don't think they were expecting him to be the left tackle for the hopeful three-peat Super Bowl champions that year. They're kind of hoping that he was going to be the guy moving forward. We'll see if that is the plan. I'm not sure if he is even like the body type wise to suck into guard, just because he's too big and athletic. And that's just kind of what it is. And if he doesn't work out there in the preseason next year, we'll figure it out. Again, the Chiefs,
right tackle. Juwan Taylor's not irreplaceable. Like, I just don't think you can make him. You just can't make him based on the way he played and Patrick Mahomes getting older and being like, you can't. They can't go into next year and say we're going to let Kingsley Suamataia be our left tackle.
I think there is a world where he could be. I mean, we'll see come week 1 next year who the starter is, because somebody's got to be there, and it might be him. And so, I mean, and we'll have to deal with that when we get there. But and so hopefully Andy Reid, former offensive lineman, Andy Heck, that's a tight ends coach. I can't even think of the offensive line coach's name off the top of my head right now. But they've rebuilt this offensive line before. I won't be shocked if they can do it again.
It's Andy Heck. You had it.
Yes. Okay, my bad.
How do you feel, Felix, about this sort of narrative that's been put out there about the Chiefs needing to find a way to potentially reinvent their offense? They've done it once before. They, obviously traded away Tyreek Hill and reshuffled the way that they do things offensively. With the offensive line struggles this season, we really saw them institute more of a quick strike type passing offense and that sort of thing. Do you think because of the way that they ended this season that we're going to need to see at least a little bit of a change in the way that they call an offensive game plan? Or do you think it's going to be more of what we've seen, recently from them?
Well, it was particularly frustrating in the actual 60 minutes of the Super Bowl where you're just like, Andy Reid, run the football. Just run the ball. And we've seen it like towards probably like the back third of this year, where when Isaiah Pacheco went out, and then even when he came back and wasn't exactly what we wanted him to be, and Kareem Hunt just kind of got tired. I mean, he's a 30-year-old running back. You can't give him the ball 30 times a game for 10 games in a row like the Chiefs were. It seemed like he was, or at least getting hit as much as he was. And so I think that the Chiefs, in a league where we talk about passing the ball more, running the ball is what's gaining yardage. Like Saquon Barkley, the Bills are running the ball, the Ravens, like the Chiefs kind of ignored running the ball towards the back third of last year, of this past year. I don't know who to blame. That's the hardest part about it. Like, you want to blame Andy Reid, sure, whatever. That's still the greatest head coach in our generation and probably in the NFL right now. We'll see how he stands up to Belichick when it's all said and done. Matt Nagy, sure, you want to yell and scream about him. Sure, whatever. But when you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Travis Kelce. I know that we've talked about him going up and down and getting older and all that good stuff. When they have the talent that they have, it is tremendously disappointing, especially knowing that the play calling could be in a better spot because of they have the talent at the running back position. They have the interior offensive line help that can run the football. Why aren't you? And they just kind of ignored that, knowing that they have Patrick Mahomes, who's going to make most of your problems go away until you end up in a Super Bowl like you did.
Yeah, what do we have, 30 years now on Andy Reid? He ain't going to run the ball. Not like that. I mean,
and it's kind of frustrating. Like, he will run the ball. Like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire has a couple of 200-yard rushing games on his ledger. Like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, Brian Westbrook's is a borderline Hall of Fame.
But the identity of their offense will never be run based. Especially not with Patrick Mahomes.
I agree with you. They're the air raid. They're all that stuff. But even then, it's like
we're with you. Trust me. Nobody was screaming "run the ball" louder than we were. I don't think this year.
You can't go into the fourth quarter with 4 rushes. Like, that's crazy.
It's crazy. Especially when Patrick Mahomes is getting crushed like that.
Exactly.
All right. So we've talked a lot about the offense. But I think it's being overlooked that Justin Reid could potentially not be back, that Charles Omenihu could potentially not be back, Derek Nottie, Justin Uche, Josh Uche, even though he didn't really do anything. Nick Bolton obviously is the big one. There are a lot of players on the other side of the ball that could all potentially go. Like, there is a world where they all go.
Yeah.
That'll be as interesting as anything, I think, next year.
I think you're right.
I don't think it'll happen, but I don't think it's obvious which one they'll bring back.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think number one on the list is Nick Bolton, strictly for the continuity.
I agree.
He's the green dot. He's the quarterback for your defense, calling the plays. From an impact standpoint, I don't think there was a more impactful player from noticing his absence to his presence than Charles Omenihu. And obviously him with the injury, he was phenomenal when he came back. He became, if Chris Jones is getting pressure, George Karlaftis became a legitimate threat, but also him being there was huge for the Chiefs. And unfortunately in the Super Bowl, we didn't see the pressure that the Chiefs defensive line was able to generate through, again, the back third of this season. And so it's, again, like you're saying, Jacob, I don't know who they're bringing back. I wish it was all of them. They can't afford all of them. So it's very interesting to see. I think Nick Bolton is the one they probably bring back that makes the most sense, but Omenihu makes the most sense from an impact standpoint. And I mean, seeing the guy, like, he got so excited to play in the Super Bowl and he's playing with the Chiefs, so you think he's going to win. And then he's like, well, all right, never mind. Like, you got to run it back one more time or see if we can. So I think that Charles Omenihu is probably my favorite to bring back and the one that makes the most sense from an impact standpoint.
I think he's the most impactful. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Quick non-Chiefs related question, Felix. What's Aaron Rodgers going to do? Where is he going? Is he playing? What team is he going to land? I mean, he could probably play another year at least. Is there a team out there that's going to pick him up?
I mean, is there a cabinet secretary position open for him? Like, I think he might be more liable for one of those. I mean, the thing about Aaron Rodgers is that you're bringing in a tremendously diminished talent at the age of beyond 40. Like, he's not who he was. And like the Raiders, how inspiring is that? Like, how inspiring is the New York Giants? How inspiring is him maybe going to the Vikings if they need Sam Darnold, a replacement for him, and JJ McCarthy's not ready? Like, nothing. He's not winning a Super Bowl or an MVP. You're getting Aaron Rodgers for pennies on the dollar.
I think there are three interesting spots. It's Pittsburgh, it's the Vikings you mentioned, and it's San Francisco. But at that point, he's like end of Peyton Manning's career, Peyton Manning, where he's probably not going to have to be that good.
9 picks, 17 interceptions, Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that's. Yeah. I mean, right? Like so it's going to have to be, for it to be interesting. I think it has to be one of those kinds of teams where they're really good. But
I like the mention of San Francisco, like how quickly the mighty have fallen in Brock Purdy.
I love Brock Purdy, by the way, but bring that drama, please, because I don't like the 49ers. I would love for them to be dealing with that drama. Like, can we have a Brock Purdy, Aaron Rodgers? Just distract them. They can go away.
As a former offensive lineman, I love the revolution of the inside zone run that Kyle Shanahan and Mike Shanahan have redone. The whole Brock Purdy conversation, this is neither the time nor the place, but I think it's hilarious that people are trying to replace Brock Purdy with Aaron Rodgers now. Like congratulations, guys.
I agree, and I hope
he was almost a $60 million man this year.
Yeah,
like that close. Incredible.
It will be. It's always fascinating for quarterback. We'll get it. Let's get into that next time, because quarterback offseason is one of the great sports topics that exists. Follow Felix's work on social, Felix Johnson. We appreciate it. We will keep doing this all offseason long. It's at Field Vision. It's at Arrowhead Addict. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you, gentlemen.
There goes Felix. We'll come back. We'll talk a little Royals. It's been an eventful few days for the Royals as we get ready for the season. That's next on Sports Daily.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of. It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
83101 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Let's do this thing. Go!
Sports Daily is on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily. Excuse me. Our thanks to Felix Johnson for being here with us. Let's get you one final giveaway opportunity. Your legend begins aboard the Disney Destiny, the all-new ship from Disney Cruise Line, sailing November 2025. Log in and listen to KFH on Odyssey for a chance to win a trip forward to set sail on the Disney Destiny in this national contest. All you need to do is listen for an hour on the Odyssey app. Find out more at kfhradio.com. Max messaging Tommy and I during the break. Max, you're an SNL guy too, it sounds like. Who's your all-time SNL cast member? All right. It's a mystery.
All of them. That's his answer, saying he likes all of them.
All of them. I'm going to guess it's one of the old school guys. So, all right, let's go, Tommy, into the Royals here. It has been eventful on a couple of different fronts. The most topical news is yesterday. The Royals announced an extension for J.J. Picollo, for Matt Quatraro. A little more quietly on Quatraro, they just basically pick up his option for 26, which is fine. Piccolo's the headline maker here, an extension that runs through 2030, 2031. He has been on a heater, to be quite honest. You know, the team sent its release, and the Bobby Witt Jr. contract is still, I don't know what you call the greatest achievement of his tenure, getting that deal done, or the free agent haul he had last year, not including Bobby Witt Jr. Did you realize this, Tommy? Last offseason, 23-24, even if you take out the Bobby Witt Jr. piece, the Royals spent more money on free agents last offseason than any other team in the American League. Did you realize that? Because I did not till I saw that number.
Idea. No clue.
I mean, we knew it was a great one. I didn't realize. I'd never, I guess, compared it to his peers. Now, I'm guessing there are some National League teams, Dodgers, who spent more. But of all the American League teams, the Royals spent the most, and they were rewarded for it, which is very important. So Picollo gets this extension, in a big extension, quite frankly. And man, when you are a small market team in this sport, there is nothing more reassuring than the front office being consistent and being confident in the front office's plan. And so I'm real happy for him, obviously. But for the fan base to be able to have that security, like nobody's coming to get him. Like he's operating this team. He's obviously got a good feel for things. We'll see what kind of, farm system talent evaluator he is later on. But right now, as far as a grasp of that, the big league level, he's done a fantastic job since taking over.
Yeah, the biggest thing it tells me with J.J. Picollo getting this extension and Matt Quatraro having his option picked up is that the Royals believe that they're in a position to compete not just this year, but years to come from now. And I think that that's extremely important. And so it's less about do they have the pieces right now? And I think that they do. I think that they can get back to the playoffs with who they were able to re-sign and who they were able to bring in and all of that, the newcomers alike with the returners. That's important. But then it's also this faith that the Royals have in what J.J. Picollo and Matt Quatraro can do in the years to come. When you have a foundational piece like Bobby Witt Jr. already locked up, already signed, already there, it shows a lot of continuity. It shows a lot of confidence that they feel like they can compete for years to come. And they want Picollo at the helm to be able to find those secondary pieces to add to the team to help them compete, and have Matt Quatraro in the dugout to be able to manage it. So I think it's a vote of confidence, not only in this upcoming season for the Royals, but what they feel like they can do in the next 5 years or so. I think that's really important for Kansas City.
It is. I agree. And the latest move after a big trade for Jonathan India, which will be analyzed for a long time, the big one now, and it's kind of big, but I think it's not. Honestly, I don't even think it's that big, but I think it's important. And it's the Cole Reagans extension, which was the news. I think, what did that come down Friday?
Yeah.
Saturday, maybe. So he agrees to a 3-year, $13.25 million contract. Now, in the grand scheme, it doesn't buy them any free agency. He's going to be a free agent the same time he was, but it's an important one, Tommy, because I think it's a show of good faith for Reagans for the work that he's done. And it's a show of good faith for Reagans to take what everybody hopes is less than free market value in his arbitration years. You know what I mean? Like, even Reagans hopes he just gave the Royals a discount because it'll mean he's pitched really well. He could have made, and I think there's a better than 50-50 chance he would have made more than $13.25 million in arbitration before he becomes a free agent. Now, it gives him the security, and I think players appreciate that. That money becomes fully guaranteed. It protects him from something crazy happening. So I do think that that stuff matters to the players, but I think it matters the other way too, because Reagan's could have made more money than this if all things continue.
And it also happens relatively often where you've got players that are going through the arbitration process with the team, and it ends up straining the relationship between the player and the team. And they're going back and forth. They're haggling over money. They have to have a unbiased arbiter like decide how much money the player is going to get. It can get fairly heated. And then I mean, I don't know if you can ever quantify this or not, but I would imagine there are players out there that have gone through a particularly hostile arbitration period with the team.
Sure.
And all that does is lead them to want to leave the team in free agency when that time comes. And what the Royals and Cole Reagan did, they got together and they decided, you know what, let's completely bypass this. Let's go ahead and get this out of the picture. And I think that that's really smart of them to do, because now at this point, like they're working together to keep Reagan's on the team. It's fair, I think, it's more than fair for the Royals. And I think that for Reagan's, it's a situation where he gets that security. So it's a good thing. Anytime you can avoid arbitration, that's a good thing.
It is. By the way I understand arbitration is you basically get in a courtroom and the front office tries to tear down like a player's accomplishments to make them seem less valuable.
Right. Tries to tell them that they're not worth the amount of money that they're wanting.
Yeah, that's not healthy. So think about it this way. Reagan's has 3 of those years, 3 of those negotiations, right? And that's what they're buying out. I just pulled this up. So according to the AP, I'm going to give you some of the highest arbitration numbers in baseball. Vladimir Guerrero this year, almost $20 million. Let's go to a pitcher, Garrett Cole. In 2019, 13.5. Trevor Bauer in 2019, 13. Max Fried, 13.5 last year. Okay. Reagan's is better than Fried. And he's on a similar trajectory, I think, as Cole and Bauer were at the time. Corbin Burns last year made 10. Reagan's has given the Royals 3 of those separately, right? Those are 1-year things I'm talking about with those players.
Yeah.
3 of them separately at the value, if he had a good year this year, of probably what he would be able to make in 1 of those. So there is a component to this that I think you like to see if you're a Royals fan, and it's very similar to what we saw with Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby Witt Jr., if all things stay healthy, will be a screaming discount for the Royals for the next decade. There has got to be, that has to be a give back from players too, to enjoy it, to have faith in it, to trust in it. Reagan's didn't have to do that deal. Honestly, I think Reagan's did the Royals a favor in that deal. Now, there's a debate that we had this with Ozzie Albies. I think it was with you, Tommy. I've had it with others. Like, I have no issue with the players taking less and like losing a free agency year if it guarantees the money. He never need more than $13 million in his life, right? Almost no matter what he does. So he's good now the rest of his life. So I'm not trying to say that there's not incentive for the players to do this. But man, that feels like he gave the Royals a deal. And I think philosophically that means something. I think that should matter to the fans. And I think it matters when we talk about the overall trajectory of the organization.
You mentioned Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and all you have to do is compare and contrast the Cole Reagan situation with what's going on with Vlad Jr. right now. I don't know if you followed it in the last 12 hours or so. Like they were not able to come to terms on a contract. He and the Blue Jays. He was asked about it yesterday. They're like, did the Blue Jays come close? And his answer was no. Like just a 1-word no. And you know where that's headed. Like that's headed towards divorce. That's headed towards Vlad Jr. going somewhere else, because that sort of thing can get contentious between teams and players and their representatives and all of that. And so what Cole Reagan's did, what his representation did, and what the Royals did is they basically avoided what could have ended up being a fairly contentious conversation. And yeah, like Reagan's may have given the Royals a discount, but what Reagan's got in return was avoiding any kind of animosity and getting some security in there during these arbitration years where he doesn't have to go through the headache of, figuring out what he's going to be paid and arguing with the team that's paying him on what he should be getting paid. All in all, this, it shows just the dynamic of the culture that's being built with the Royals. And again, why I think JJ Piccolo and Matt Quatrero, for that matter, are absolutely validated in them getting extended and their options picked up for sure.
There's no question it's a good move for the Royals. The risk is very low for the Royals. So good on Piccolo, who got his extension for getting it done. Good on Reagan's. I do think it speaks to the culture right now of that organization and the way things are building and developing. And again, I said this a lot last year because we don't typically do this. Like, John Sherman deserves a lot of credit here too.
He does.
And, for a guy who got out there and said, we want a new stadium when the franchise was basically at its lowest point, we're all like, yo, read the room, right? Like, are you kidding me? He's backed it up and he's put his money where his mouth was. He's made shrewd decisions and it's working. And there's a far greater appetite for his ultimate end game, which is new downtown stadium, than there was 2 years ago. So he deserves credit too for taking this thing the way that he thinks it needs to be taken. And I will bet you this, Tommy. I will bet you the Royals' attendance this year, comparatively speaking, right, is booming. There are going to be a lot of butts in those seats this year.
I believe it. I think you're right. I think you're right. And it wasn't that long ago that you and I were having conversations about John Sherman. Like, he's trying to sell a bill of goods to people that don't want it right now because the team's not winning and they're not showing any signs of life and blah, blah, blah. And then to his credit, to JJ Piccolo's credit, they should continue to. And then it's okay to have those conversations. Ultimately, we don't know what's going to happen with the new ballpark for the Royals, but at least it's okay to have that conversation more now when the play on the field is absolutely backing it up. By the way, the other thing, I don't know if you saw this, and this is minuscule compared to everything else. The Royals announced that they're going to be rocking the full powder blues at home this season. They're not just doing the powder blue tops and the white bottoms. They're doing the powder blue full uniforms from time to time at home this year, which I'm totally here for. I think it's great.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but yeah, they as they should. It's just so fun to be excited about them before a season starts. We were like nervously and sort of guarded excited about them. Like, yeah, they got those pitchers. There's a chance they could be good. It's very different than what it is right now, which is the expectation being that they get right back to the postseason and legitimately contend for a World Series. Let that sink in a little bit. That's crazy. By the way, their futures bet is pretty good. 40-1. You can get them at right now, folks. 40-1. We'll be back with more Sports Daily.